On a cold winter night, snowflakes blanketed the empty streets, their gentle descent muffling the world in silence. Under the dim glow of a flickering streetlight, a golden retriever dragged herself along the frozen ground, her body leaving streaks of crimson across the pristine white snow. Pain was etched in her eyes, but there was also an unyielding determination, a fierce resolve to reach a place that mattered deeply. What had brought her to this state? Why was she enduring such agony? Could there still be hope on this bitter, freezing night? The gray sky over Portland loomed heavy with the threat of an impending storm. A blue compact car came to a halt at the edge of a quiet neighborhood, breaking the eerie stillness. Inside the car, Sophie, a golden retriever with a glossy, sunlit coat, sat in the back seat, her tail wagging gently as she looked out the window. For 3 years, she had been the loyal companion of Clara, a woman who had found comfort and companionship in Sophie's presence during her solitude. But this day was different. The air in the car felt heavy, tense. Clara's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white as she stared blankly ahead. She had spent weeks agonizing over this moment. Financial struggles had mounted, and a sudden move to a new apartment with strict no-pets policies had left her with few choices. The thought of surrendering Sophie to a shelter had crossed her mind, but the idea was unbearable. Sophie's trusting eyes haunted her, and Clara could not face the guilt of leaving her beloved dog in the care of strangers. In desperation, Clara convinced herself that leaving Sophie in a quiet suburban neighborhood might offer her a better chance. Surely, someone would take Sophie in, a family who would love her just as Clara did. It wasn't rational, but Clara was desperate to avoid the confrontation with her own guilt. She turned to Sophie, who tilted her head in response, sensing her owner's unease. "I'm so sorry, girl," Clara whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. She reached into the back seat to stroke Sophie's head one last time. Sophie nuzzled her hand, her tail wagging with innocent enthusiasm, oblivious to the weight of the moment. Clara stepped out of the car and opened the back door. "Come on, Sophie," she said, trying to sound cheerful despite the tremor in her voice. Sophie leapt out, her tail wagging furiously as she sniffed the unfamiliar surroundings. The street was quiet, lined with modest homes and overgrown gardens. Clara knelt down, burying her face in Sophie's soft fur, her tears soaking into the golden coat. "Be a good girl," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Someone will take care of you." Without looking back, Clara climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Sophie stood by the car, her head cocked in curiosity. She took a few tentative steps forward, expecting Clara to call her back inside. But the car began to move, its wheels crunching softly against the snowy pavement. Sophie trotted alongside it, her nails clicking against the road, wagging her tail as if this were a game. But when the car picked up speed, Sophie slowed to a stop. She watched as the blue vehicle disappeared around the corner, her tail still for the first time that day. She stood on the sidewalk, her ears perked up at the sound of another car approaching. But it wasn't Clara's. Confused and uncertain, Sophie began to wander down the quiet street. Every so often she glanced back, hopeful that her car would return, but the hours dragged on. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. Streetlights flickered to life, their yellow glow reflecting off Sophie's damp fur, now glistening with the cold evening mist. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of Clara's perfume, lingering on Sophie's coat. She sniffed the air, desperate for any trace of her owner, but the scent was fading. As night fell, the street grew eerily silent. Sophie lay down on the cold ground, her head resting on her paws, her eyes fixed on the direction Clara had gone. Hunger gnawed at her empty stomach, but she didn't move. She had always trusted Clara to provide, to protect her. Now lost and alone in an unfamiliar place, Sophie didn't know where to go or what to do. The distant sounds of the neighborhood, a barking dog, rustling leaves, and the occasional hum of a passing car, felt alien and unsettling. A group of raccoons scurried past, making Sophie lift her head briefly, but she lowered it again, her body trembling from the cold and the realization that Clara wasn't coming back. By midnight, Sophie could no longer ignore the ache in her stomach. She stood, her legs stiff from hours of lying still, and began to wander. The once quiet neighborhood now felt ominous under the cover of darkness. She sniffed at trash bins, but they were sealed shut, offering no relief. A stray cat hissed and swiped at her when she ventured too close, forcing her to retreat. Her golden paws ached from walking aimlessly on the rough pavement, the smooth pads unused to such harsh terrain. As dawn broke, Sophie found herself in an industrial part of town. The air smelled of rust and oil, mixed with the faint, unpleasant scent of garbage. The abandoned warehouses lining the narrow streets loomed over her like silent sentinels. Her once pristine coat was now matted and dirty, her tail drooping low. She stumbled across a shallow puddle and drank deeply, grimacing at the metallic taste but grateful for the moisture. Her stomach growled loudly, but food remained out of reach. As the morning wore on, Sophie wandered into a small, overgrown park. A broken bench sat beneath a gnarled tree, offering a semblance of shelter. She curled up beneath it, seeking refuge from the biting wind. Her eyes drooped with exhaustion, but she remained alert, her ears twitching at every sound. Sophie's mind struggled to process why Clara had left her. She had always been a good dog, obedient, loyal, and affectionate. What had she done wrong? What had changed? Days turned into nights as Sophie roamed the unfamiliar streets, her once hopeful demeanor replaced with cautious resignation. She learned to avoid busy roads and sought quieter areas, her instincts sharpening with each passing day. Hunger gnawed at her constantly, her golden coat now streaked with grime, and her ribs began to show beneath her thinning fur. Despite her struggles, Sophie's hope flickered faintly. Every car that passed made her ears perk up, and every figure in the distance caused her tail to wag briefly. But the cars never stopped, and the people never called out to her. Invisible in a city too busy to notice, Sophie pressed on. The storm of abandonment and survival was far from over, but somewhere deep within her, a mother's fierce determination was beginning to stir, a resolve that would carry her through the days to come. The dim light of Emma's flashlight illuminated the engraved name on the worn leather collar. "Sophie," Emma whispered, her voice trembling as she traced the faded letters with her fingers. The coincidence was striking, a name so familiar, it tugged at her heartstrings with uncanny force. She glanced at the injured dog lying in the cold, drenched in the relentless rain. Sophie, as if sensing the familiarity of her name on Emma's lips, let out a soft whimper, her tired eyes locking with Emma's. Emma felt an overwhelming sense of purpose flood her chest. It was as if fate had led her to this very moment. With no time to dwell on the emotional weight, Emma worked quickly. Using her raincoat and a discarded piece of plywood, she fashioned a makeshift stretcher for Sophie. Each movement was deliberate, her heart aching with every wince of pain Sophie emitted. Despite her obvious discomfort, the dog didn't resist. Her gaze shifted repeatedly to the box where her 4 puppies lay, huddled together, their tiny bodies trembling from the cold. Drawing strength from their presence, Sophie endured Emma's care. With everyone securely placed in the car, Emma climbed into the driver's seat, her hands gripping the wheel as rain pounded against the windshield. The puppies cried softly from their box, a pitiful sound that only deepened Emma's determination. She glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Sophie lying motionless yet alert, her eyes never leaving her puppies. "You're incredible," Emma murmured, her voice catching in her throat. "We'll get you help, I promise." The drive to the clinic felt like an eternity. The storm raged on, making visibility difficult, but Emma's resolve never wavered. When she finally pulled up to the brightly lit building, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Without wasting a second, Emma carried the box of puppies inside. Their cries grew louder in the warmth of the clinic, as if instinctively recognizing they were now safe. Returning to the car, she enlisted a colleague's help to lift Sophie, stretcher and all. The mother dog whimpered faintly but kept her eyes on Emma, as though trusting her completely. Inside the clinic, the sterile lights revealed the extent of Sophie's injuries. Her frail body bore the marks of a harsh life, old scars, infected wounds, and severe malnutrition. X-rays confirmed a clean but serious break in her hind leg, likely caused by the falling debris that had trapped her. Despite her condition, Sophie's calm, steady gaze and quiet strength inspired hope in Emma and her team. The puppies, though dehydrated and weak, responded quickly to care. After feeding and gentle warmth, their tiny bodies seemed to revive, their soft breaths steadying. Meanwhile, Sophie underwent surgery to repair her leg. The procedure was long and delicate, with a metal plate and screws inserted to stabilize the fractured bone. Throughout it all, Emma stayed by her side, her hand resting gently on Sophie's head. "You're safe now," Emma whispered as Sophie was wheeled into recovery. "You're going to be okay." Bringing Sophie and her puppies home was an unconventional decision, but Emma felt a bond too strong to ignore. Her husband Michael greeted her at the door, his initial concern giving way to tenderness as he took in the sight of the injured dog and her tiny pups. Together they set up a warm, comfortable space in the corner of their living room. Sophie settled in, her eyes softening as she watched her puppies nestle into their new bedding. Over the weeks, Sophie began to heal under Emma and Michael's care. Her once dull coat regained its golden sheen, and the light returned to her eyes. Though her leg remained in a bright blue cast, she moved with increasing confidence, her tail wagging faintly whenever Emma approached. The puppies thrived, filling the Martinez home with joyful chaos. Each developed a unique personality: Max, the bold leader; Charlie, the vocal and curious one; Luna, the fearless explorer; and Star, the quiet, nurturing soul. Their playful antics brought laughter and life back into the house, something Emma and Michael hadn't realized they'd been missing. For Emma, caring for Sophie and her puppies became deeply personal. She found herself opening up about the loss of her daughter, Sophie, who had passed away as a baby. One night, as she sat beside the sleeping dog, Emma whispered, "You've brought me more healing than I thought possible." "Thank you, Sophie," as if understanding shifted closer, resting her head on Emma's lap. As Sophie and her puppies became an integral part of the household, Emma and Michael made the heartfelt decision to keep them all. Their home, once quiet and marked by grief, was now alive with the sounds of playful barks and tiny paws skittering across the floors. Michael fenced in the backyard, creating a safe haven for the dogs to roam freely. Emma, drawing on her veterinary expertise, trained the puppies with love and patience. The bond between Sophie and Emma deepened as the weeks turned into months. Sophie's quiet resilience and unwavering love mirrored Emma's journey of healing. Inspired by Sophie's story, Emma began volunteering at a local animal rescue, sharing their tale to encourage others to adopt and care for animals in need. One crisp autumn morning, Emma woke feeling unusually tired. As the days passed, she noticed other subtle changes and decided to take a pregnancy test. When the result was positive, tears streamed down her face. After years of heartbreak, she and Michael were going to have another child. The news brought a new sense of joy and anticipation to their lives. Sophie, ever the intuitive companion, seemed to sense the significance of Emma's pregnancy. She stayed close to Emma, her protective instincts stronger than ever. The puppies, now growing rapidly, mirrored their mother's behavior, often curling up at Emma's feet or following her around the house. When baby Sophia Grace Martinez was born on a snowy December evening, it felt like the culmination of every blessing Sophie had brought into their lives. Named after Emma's first daughter, and a testament to God's grace, the baby filled their home with even more love. Returning from the hospital, Emma introduced the newborn to Sophie. The dog sniffed gently at the baby, her eyes soft with understanding. From that moment, Sophie became not only a protector, but also a loving guardian for the newest member of the family. Over time, the Martinez household became a sanctuary of second chances and unbreakable bonds. Sophie's story inspired a community initiative, Sophie's Hope, which raised funds for injured and abandoned animals. Emma and Michael dedicated their lives to spreading the love Sophie had brought into their home. As the seasons changed, so did their family. The once muted household now brimmed with life, laughter, and hope. Sophie, a battered stray turned beloved family member, had become a symbol of resilience and the power of love. Through her, Emma and Michael found healing, purpose, and the strength to embrace life's miracles. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt truly whole.